All right, welcome to Daily Devotions today, everybody. You're watching this on Thursday, most likely. So I noticed something in the text after I filmed yesterday's, and wanted to just share it with you. And yeah, that'll be it for the week. So we're not going to read the whole thing today, but I'll just stop in the middle. So we're at Mark 10. Um, the crowds gathered around him, and as was his custom, he again taught them. Some Pharisees came, and to test him they asked, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife?" He answered them, "What did Moses command you?" They said, "Moses allowed a man to write a certificate of dismissal and to divorce her." But Jesus said to them, "Because of your hardness of heart he wrote this commandment for you. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate." So first of all, we have this idea that there's God's law from the beginning, and then there's God's law as life is lived out in time and in human brokenness. And what I like here, or not like, but what I'm paying attention to is that Moses allowed a man to do this, and that Jesus says that because of your hardness of heart, Jesus wrote that because you weren't able to take care of each other in the right way, because you weren't able to have your people weren't able to have their marriage relationship function in the right way, God wrote this, or Moses wrote this, and so it became necessary. But what I noticed was that saying, or that word, hardness of heart, pops up in Mark uh, prior to this in chapter 3. And I just wanted to read that story because I think it shows us what makes Jesus so sad, or in this case of the New Testament, I'm going to read what makes Jesus angry. And so you can just see if you can figure out hardness of heart, and then try to pay attention to what Jesus' feelings are and where his heart, which isn't hard, is directed. So Mark chapter 3, again Jesus entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. So this is the Pharisees again. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, the Pharisees, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. What I noticed was just that Jesus is wholly committed to life, to bringing life, and that God's law is interpreted through that lens. So this man, where the Pharisees interpreted healing as work and helping this man as work, and thus you violated the commandments and you were against or breaking the law. If you heal, that's what they're watching for, to see if Jesus is going to heal this guy on the Sabbath day. And of course he does, because the Sabbath is for life, God's law is for life, healing is for life. And so that principle flows into the spirit of the law and allows Jesus to do something that God's law forbid, or that they interpreted God's laws to forbid. And I think that's the I'm not gonna, not tricky, but that's the thing that we have to pay attention to, is that all the laws are interpreted one way or another, with nuances or with specific focuses. And the rabbis and people they had liberty to try to figure that out, how God's law applied. And so Jesus is always applying this law of bringing life and God's love to people over against the letter or rule of the law as it was interpreted. And I like that, because it lets me know um, that my hardness of heart, or my, and I don't know how you want to interpret that. I used on Sunday, I interpreted hardness of heart as more a damaged heart, or a broken heart or a scarred heart. And I also think that can function to say we've been wounded, therefore our hearts are hard. Or I think it can function to say to prevent ourselves from being wounded, or to try to be righteous, or I don't know. If you want to think about it that way, our self-centeredness makes our hearts hard because we think we're right and therefore they're wrong. And so our hearts are hard towards other people because of how we're looking at what's right and wrong and what's good and bad in the world and what we think God wants us to think. So think about your hard heart and why it's like that, or maybe it's not. Or think about somebody whose heart's been hard towards you. Think about that. And then think about your Lord here being angry and grieved at that for us because we've been hurt by people, and for others that we've hurt through hearts that might not be as open and willing to them. But either way, in the midst of whatever you discover as you search these scriptures today in your own heart, know that the end of the story where Jesus blesses the little children still stands. We're still God's little children, and He's still holding you and working to soften your heart towards Him and towards the world so that you can find more joy and freedom. Have a blessed day.